Kia ora family, welcome back to The Martin Show. Our guest today is from the finance space. This man is a chartered accountant, a podcaster, a financial educator, and founder of Keep the Change. I introduced you, Luke Kemeys.
Thanks for having me, bro. Good to be here.
Bro, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, and well done on what you guys have put together over 20 episodes. So you're into that top 3%.
Yeah, bro, getting there.
Yeah, do the rest.
One step at a time, one step at a time.
That's it.
I always get a little bit, I guess, apprehensive when I'm talking about certain topics that I'm not too comfortable with, much educated in. So my student hat is on today, bro.
Nice.
And I know that I'm going to learn something, and I know that everyone tuning in will be learning something too. So first of all, thank you for being here.
No worries. That's the goal, mate. And I think, my background, learning accounting and being interested in economics since 16, I don't feel like that because it's what I do every day. So it's normal for me to talk about money, to talk to people about money. So it's less emotional, it's more transactional.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get a bit more of that flowing through NZ, then people will, you've got to learn first, like, why are you emotional about it? But then as it becomes more transactional, it doesn't have as much of a hold over you. And then you can learn even more about it without being triggered about it.
Wow. So 16, is that when you first sort of got attracted to learning about money?
Yeah, it might have even been 15 because I think I started economics in year 11. So that would be, fifth form back in the day. So yeah, about 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you come from, did you come from money yourself? Like in regards to your family, supportive whānau and whatnot?
I guess so, bro, because we all come from a different frame of reference, right? But I guess where I've been really lucky is I've had my parents separated and I probably got lessons from both sides. So my dad and then his wife, they were probably better educated in terms of money and started looking at rental properties and things like that. Dad always seemed to have more money than mum. Let's put it like that. Whereas mum, went through years on the benefit and things like that. And we didn't have the same school uniform because it was too expensive. So let's find the cheaper version. And looking back, you can start to learn how you get shaped around money. So I was pretty lucky because I sort of had two different out views of what was going on. My stepdad would bust his ass for us so that we had, enough food on the table, but we never had all the, we couldn't do everything that other people were doing. And as you get a bit older, I guess, you start to question how come, why is that me? Or how come people can afford all that at the tuck shop? But I can't be buying a Coke every morning. How do they do that? And things like that. So, there's no knock on, and I think that's important for us to all understand too, is your parents are just doing the best that they can. And, we want to try and take what they were doing or how they were thinking, the way that they were thinking at the time, and then figure out, okay, then how do you then go from there, and which angle do you take? Do you think, oh, poor me, we didn't have as much as other people or whatnot? But you'll always find someone poorer than you and you'll always find someone richer than you.
Because what you do and what you teach isn't really taught in schools or not even in whānaus, in families. The conversations aren't really had. Why is money such a taboo subject, not spoken about that often?
Yeah, man, I don't know what the answer is, but I wonder, part of it, bro, is because I think a lot of us don't want to admit that we're struggling and that we're broke. Yeah. And we don't even want to use that word, but it's such an expensive country to live in. And then we don't teach people how to make more money. So then when we see people who do it, our whole paradigm and the way that we've grown up is broken. And then instantly we're into defense them. How'd they do that? They must have ripped someone off. They must have stood on someone. He's an asshole. And then we program ourselves with just all this bad shit. So I guess a good way to think about it, bro, if I said to you and everybody listening at home as well, is if I was, to ask you a question about money, then how would you describe it? Because you can start to think, okay, what do I think about it? And then that came from somewhere, and I think we get programmed around things, around money. And so then we either can see that looking down on it, and then we don't get stuck there, or we just get stuck there and then we try and look for more data to back up how we feel about it.
Yeah, confirmation, eh?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think that we should be talking about or thinking about with our friends, with our whānaus? What are those conversations? What should we be talking about in regards to money?
Yeah, so one of the main things that I think would completely change the trajectory of this country is if we started talking about how it's easy to make money, because that basically goes against everything that we get taught, right? Do you think it's hard to make money?
No.
You don't? Okay, good. That's good. But I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But what happens is that I think like trying to figure it out. And it's just my opinion. We go, right, get a good education, get a job, and then you swap your time for money.
For sure.
And that is quite fucking hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it does, and you can start to see a ceiling of it. And so then you look at other people and you think, well, how do they have more and what's going on? And then you start to feel devalued when you don't get a pay rise per hour and things like that. But the way to make more money is actually to provide more value.
Yeah.
So if we can learn to be more valuable, then we can earn a lot more money. And as I've studied more people who have money, I've realized that they don't necessarily swap their time for money. They actually swap something of value to somebody who values it.
Wow.
So as an example, and because then you go, well, like, oh, that's too hard, but it's not. So basically say, take whatever your hourly rate is at the moment, if you're, listening to this and in a job. And then if you went next door and you found an older lady or older guy and you said, hey, mate, I've spotted that your gutters are, they're overflowing. There's water dripping down. I've got a ladder. I'll get up there for you. I'll save you the risk, $250. You can do that in half an hour. All of a sudden, you're $500 an hour.
Yeah.
But you're swapping value because to the person, they're thinking, well, yeah, that's been pissing me off and I don't want to get up there. I don't even have a ladder. So now you're looking at life through a lens of, where can I add value?
Yeah.
And I don't think we do any teaching about that.
No.
We're just sort of like, all right, get a good job, save your money. If you can save enough, buy a house. Hopefully that goes up in value. And if it does, you could get a rental property as well.
Yeah.
And then you've killed it. You've crushed it in New Zealand. But it's a pretty boring path when you think about it like that, right? Yeah. But I think times have changed and property, like a lot of younger people now will just look at that and go, that doesn't work. But what has always worked is becoming more valuable and then swapping your value with the people who have more money than what you do as such, but also that are willing to buy that value off of you.
That's it, bro. Willing to purchase, right?
Yeah.
Bro, I do want to ask you, speaking about earning, I listened to a podcast recently with Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you're too familiar with him. With a lady named Cody Sanchez. And she talks about the key to building wealth or the key to wealth is through ownership. And so I want to ask you the difference between earning versus ownership. And do you agree with her statement there? Because what you're saying here is what's ingrained into us is to get a good job, to earn as much as we can, get the biggest salary you can. But what she's talking about is owning and creating or owning assets, owning assets to our portfolio. Do you agree with her in that regard? Yeah.
So there's two parts that I haven't seen that clip, but this is probably how I'd unpack that. So the wealthiest people in the world hold assets, right? They're not just focused on earning. So what happens is as you earn more, you've got to do something with that money because you get to a point where you then end up having more than you need. So this is why we see, billionaires buying sports clubs.
Yeah.
And New Zealanders, they know this. This is what they've been doing. They've been earning. They have enough and they go, well, I'm going to store it in property. So why we're trying to own is to protect ourselves from the devaluation of money. So there's always more money ending up in the system. So then we have inflation and money becomes worth less.
Yeah.
So then people get it and they go, well, what can I invest it into in terms of an asset that they can own that hopefully will move with inflation? And then I'm not going to be going backwards. But if they just keep that money and they put it under their mattress, then what happens is in 2, 3, 5 years time, they go get that money out of the mattress and they're like, sweet, I've got my 100 grand, but the 100 grand now buys less.
Yeah.
So you've got to do two, but I think there's not enough education around how do we earn more anyway so that we can start to buy some assets as well.
Wow.
But once you earn more and pay your taxes, then you're left with that amount and you think, okay, what am I going to own that's going to protect you and protect your wealth?
We'll talk a little bit about investing a little bit later on because I think that's where you're sort of going there. But my question is, what do you know now about money that you wish you knew when you were younger?
It's a tool and that's it. So nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
So when people tell you it's evil, okay, great. Like, how come? And you just question everything you've learned, and all it is, bro, it's just like having a shovel. You either know how to use it and you can do awesome with a shovel or you can smack someone over the head with it. Like, is the shovel bad or is the person bad?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you can remove all that emotion and just go, you know what, there's people making a lot of money and why can't that be me? And just because you haven't learned yet doesn't mean that you can't learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what we do in society is we seem to give more and more younger people access to free money quick. So overdrafts. And I've done the whole thing. So I've done overdrafts. I've done multiple banks. I've done credit cards. I've done balanced credit card transfers. Like I've tried to game the whole system. And eventually I got to this point, I was like, excuse my language, like this, I'm just going to get rich. Like I'm just going to figure out how to actually make some money. I'm sick of this shit. I don't want ASB's $1,000, $2,000 overdraft interest free because I'm just constantly looking at it all. But what it teaches us is, money's actually really easy to come by. So then why would you try and save $2,000 to invest? And at the end of 12 months, it's worth $2,200. You're like, well, this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
So society teaches us like, no, don't worry about that. Don't own shit. Yeah, what you should do is we'll just give you money and now we own you.
Wow.
And now you can go buy the shit that you don't really need. So lazy boys for me, king size beds and whatnot. And then you have those things and you're like, okay, I'm kind of winning because I've got some status and I've got cooler stuff than other people. Yeah. But you're just now working for the credit provider. But it's dumbing your brain and taking you away from the fact that, to become wealthy and to stay out of that trap, which is quick, instant gratification, you have to delay gratification, but it's boring.
Yeah.
So we're really competing at a psychology level of where is the system or the big marketing machines trying to take us. And, at uni for me, there were banks on campus.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, hell yeah, man, $1,000 interest free. Just got to fill this form out. Bang, 24 hours. We are off to the pub Thursday night for sure. And that's what we did. Yeah. And so it's still happening with buy now, pay later and all these things. But the more you learn about money, you realize like, you've just gone down the wrong path.
Yeah. And
that's not really necessarily your fault unless somebody wakes you up in your life and goes, yo, that doesn't lead anywhere. I can show you where that leads. And eventually you get sick of it and you have to stop and you have to have a reset and tidy it up anyway. And then you got to go all the way back to zero. And then it sucks because you're like, well, I did a year paying off a credit card. And when you realize like, it's going to take me 26 fortnights to clear this $15,000 credit card, then you got to stay on the grind every payday of I clear that. Now I got to wait till next payday. Yeah. And it's boring.
Yeah. And then once you pay that off, now you're back to square one, right?
Yeah. And then you've got to figure out, okay, then how do I start investing? So back to the top of the question is it's just a tool and that's it. We give it all of this drama and all of these emotions and someone planted that in our head and you got to figure out, is it your parents? Is it society? Is it someone that had a bad experience with money? Yeah. Those don't need to be your experiences with money. You've been taught that. But you can unlearn it and you can reprogram what you want money to be in your life.
Oh, see, these are the gems, brother. These are the gems. So. I love it. You've been surrounded by wealthy people. You're a lot more familiar to those people than me. What traits, behaviors, and habits do those people possess that you've noticed? Yeah.
So I've probably met a New Zealand billionaire. Like I'm pretty sure that they would be a billionaire. But they are like, I think everyone assumes, they'll be like assholes, but they just understand the value game. Yeah. And then they just stay in it for ages. And I think as well, for a lot of us younger people, and there'll be younger people, like I'm 36. And if you're in your 20s, stop comparing yourself to 60-year-old people, 50-year-old people, old bloody uncle, whoever with 3 rentals, like 40 years. They got 40 years on you.
He's been in the game, right? Yeah.
And it's just compounding, but the sooner you find your thing that works and then avoid all of the dumb stuff, and keep compounding that, then you just give yourself a massive opportunity to have things that you never even thought possible. And I think a good way to think about it is that, Warren Buffett, he's now 94, I think, and he's one of the world's most recognizable wealthy people in the world. Yeah. And part of what's made him mega wealthy is just the fact that he didn't stop investing at 65. He just kept compounding and just keep going, keep learning, keep becoming more valuable, keep buying undervalued stocks, and then they just go up in price and he's just minted. And it's so simple that it's boring, but like he lost a lot of money in his early decades. And if he took that moment and said, no, this is not for me, I'm done, like we wouldn't even know who he is.
100%, bro.
But because he hung in there and kept going. So I think we think that they've got these magic answers, but I do think though, they're quite like tenacious, or they'll keep going. They're resilient, and they'll know that a path works, and they've got the ability to laser in and just keep going. But what's also surprised me about wealthy people, especially in New Zealand, they're actually incredibly giving.
Yeah.
And they want to help you.
Yeah.
And you can reach out to them because it's a small island, and you can ask them for help. And if you shape it in the right way, like, they will try and teach you, because they don't want to see you struggling. And a lot of wealthy people have actually struggled, and that's how they've got there.
Yeah.
And if more Kiwi people realize they're not dicks, they're actually just normal humans. And if you reach out to them and be like, mate, I really admire you. I would love to know 3 pieces of help that you think could help me or my whānau become wealthier, etc. What would those be? Man, they will be more than willing to give you just some time. But if you're just, I think we go to rich people and we're like, can I have this? Like, you've got that, why can't I have this? Or can you donate me some money? And imagine how much of that they get. Yeah. So
it's just building the courage, right? To be able to ask that individual, like, hey bro, can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah. And I think, like, we should be asking them for their knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for their wallet.
No. Yeah.
Clip that shit out. Yeah.
Well, bro, a lot of people listening would be in the startup phase, whether it be starting their own company, business, or starting in their career.
Yeah.
What advice would you have to those individuals in regards to building wealth? Like, you can use this podcast as an example. Like, as a startup, should we even be thinking about ways to generate revenue, or should we be just thinking about growing the thing as much as you can? I'm just talking about in the earlier stages. What should we be thinking about in regards to leveling up our finances?
Well, of what you're doing, right? And with anybody building an audience, that is wealth. So the more you build an audience, the more you have leverage to convince somebody to pay you. So yes, you should be thinking about revenue down the track, but the longer you can hold your breath and it's not the sole focus, then you don't sell out for the first $3 sponsorship that pops up and you think, like, oh, okay, epic, let's do that because we're finally getting it. And if you can see that you're growing something and you don't necessarily need that money in the here and now, then you're actually still building wealth, because you're creating an ability to take money off the table later on. So don't, just because you're not getting paid now, for you, but anybody, doesn't mean that you're not going to get paid in the future. And I did a webinar last night with business owners that have been in business for years, and we're still talking about this. Like, we're in a recession, we've got to plant the seeds now, and when the money's back in the economy, you're going to be real busy, and we get to take some of that off the table. So don't stop investing right now into your business, into your databases, into yourself, into your health, into your wealth, into goodwill, into providing value, into helping people. And eventually you build up too much goodwill and karma that someone comes and says, like, hey, can I pay you to do X, Y, Z? So it can be really tough in those early years to feel like you're not getting anywhere. But I think if you can always think about, okay, where could the money come from? That's smart, because then you're already putting your mind to it. But just because the money's not coming yet doesn't mean that it won't come. But it's all good to be deliberate and want it to come. And there's no shame in telling people, like, I'm going to make money doing this. It's all good. Yeah. It's all good. And people will laugh at you. Oh, fucking, you got another, who do you think you are? Whatever. What are they doing? Nothing. So how do they know? They're not our reference point. You want to go and speak to someone who's, done podcasts or done whatever you have done. A really good hack in New Zealand. If you're doing something, you're in the North Island, bring somebody in the South Island that's ahead of you and say, hey, love what you're doing. I've been keeping an eye on you. I'm trying to do this here. What advice would you have for me?
Wow.
If you're in the South Island, do the same thing with the North Island. Kiwis actually love helping each other as long as we're not competing with each other. Then people, I don't know if I'm going to tell them that. But if you ring someone and say, I really admire what you're doing, like, how could I think about monetizing this faster and stuff? They'll be like, oh, well, have you thought about this? Or we did this, or don't do that. So, but in those early days, it's so hard and it's a grind, and you have to have self-belief that something's going to come of it. And one of the things that now I know, because I've done this a few times, is when you can look at something and go, I don't need to be paid for that for 5 years, then you become unstoppable, because basically you're going to keep building for 5 years. Yeah. But remember as well that that's counterintuitive to how we think, because we've been trained, no, get a job, get paid the next week. Yeah. Or, don't you have money? Oh, that's all good. Just use buy now, pay later. Oh, just use credit card. So if then to tell someone, oh, bro, just work on that for 5 years. They're like, hey, 5 years. But you divide 5 by how long you expect to be alive. And a half a decade block is a grunty, it's a lot more than what someone will work on something, because someone will go, oh, I've done 2 years there, that's enough.
Yeah.
But imagine if they did, 20 years, but you've got to make sure that you're in the right vehicle that's going to get you to where you want to go to. Yeah.
Oh, the right vehicle. We're going to get onto that as well. I love that point. Well, speaking of a lot of what you're saying, I'm getting delayed gratification, mindset, belief.
Yeah.
How much of wealth, attaining financial freedom is mindset?
Oh, heaps, man, because I'll give you an example, right? So if we tie all of this, what I've just been talking about, to an example for myself, I can ask for $5,000 for an hour to speak on stage. So someone will go, holy shit, you're worth $5,000 an hour. But it's not that. Like, it might knock me out for the whole day because I've got to go, I've got to fly somewhere, I've got to speak, I've got to have slides, I've got to pay someone to tailor up my slides. And it's years of practice and knowledge and experience. But another person will see it and go, wow, that's $5,000. That's ridiculous. And to an old version of me, it is ridiculous. But that can probably be 6, it can probably be 7. I've looked at the people who charge 10 and I'm like, I can beat that. I can get there.
Patrick Ben David.
Yeah, wow. I think 40 G's.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Zach, we've got a long way to go.
So belief in yourself is really important. But then when you get validation from the market, which is basically, hey, yeah, I can come and speak and it's $5,000. They go, yeah, sweet. You're like, whoa, yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm 6, maybe I'm 7. I don't know. But you have to then have your belief in yourself set right then to then go, righto, next time I get a request, it is $6,000 or it's 6,475. But to bring this back to all of us, because you think, well, I can't get paid that for an hour. I'm just showing you what's possible. Yeah. But it just means that, when you go and you say to your neighbor, hey, I'll clean your gutters for you, it's not your time. It's not how valuable it is to you. It's how valuable it is to them. But you can't ask them for that if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in the value that you're delivering. So then we default into, oh, my mate, he does it for $50. So I better do it for $50 too. Yeah. Your mate might be a dick and he might leave leaves all over the driveway, and so then he doesn't get another gig. If you're going, look, it's $275 and I'm going to take the leaves as well. I'm going to make sure that next time it rains, I'm going to come and have a look and make sure nothing's leaking. I'll do that for you. You don't need to provide me a ladder, anything. I'll get up there and I'll do it for you too. If there's anything else that you need done, I'm happy to do that, but let's just start with the gutters. Yeah. Bang, your value is so much better than, oh, can I clean your gutters? Like, give me $75 cash. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you've got to articulate the value to the people that you are working for. So you've got to believe in yourself that you can actually deliver that value too.
Oh, understanding your worth as well, eh? Understanding your value.
Yeah, and that's really hard in a nation, where we don't have a lot of high income earners who tell other people. So even, I got a mate and I was talking to him last week and he was telling me about what he does with his clients, and he's saying, oh, it's $3,500. And I'm like, oh, mate, I'm doing it this way and we're 6.5. And he's like, oh, sheesh. I'm like, yeah, bro, you're too cheap. Like, you're undervaluing what you're doing. But I've now given him the confidence that he can increase his prices. Wow. So sometimes you have to get around other people who are doing well and ask them, what are you doing? So that you can see your blind spots. So then you need to take the belief from them and go, well, why do I not have this belief? Yeah. And then the market, if it's saying yes to you, that is the confirmation that they value what you're doing. So going back to like money as a tool, basically the market decides, like they decide if something's valuable. So eventually when you go out there and you say, right, I want 20 grand for the year for a sponsorship, if you get a no, it doesn't mean it's not worth 20 grand. It means it's not to them. And you maybe haven't articulated the value enough. So then the next person, they might say yes, or the 8th person might say yes. So who was right? Like, you were right. The market, you just had to find the right person in the market that sees it. But I think we're too quick to be like, I've got to know, I need to drop my prices, I'm not valuable enough, and then we lose our confidence.
Oh my God.
Yeah, simple, eh?
Oh, it is. Patience is another thing I'm getting. Getting used to rejection as well. Like, if you're getting all these no's, just keep on it. You're going to get that yes.
Just on that really quickly, bro, a good way to deal with rejection is when you don't get rejected, ask for feedback. So ask for, like in my space, ask for a Google review. Then I collect too many Google reviews So that when someone tells me like, no, I'm not paying you $6,500 to do that, you're full of shit, or you love yourself, or that's ridiculous. I'm like, oh, I got 140 Google reviews, mother. Like, So I can't believe them anymore. I'm like, oh, okay, I apologize. Maybe I haven't articulated the value enough. This isn't worth it to you. Completely understand. But their data it's not rejection anymore.
Yeah.
It's just that they're not ready. And I've got too much data. So when you're winning, make sure you collect your data.
I've got the proof. I've got the evidence.
Yeah.
Bro, speaking of your mahi, what you do, keep the change. You launched that in 2020?
Yeah.
May of 2020?
Yes.
Good memory, Zach.
Nice, well done.
What was the mission in those earlier stages?
So I would, because I like money and learning about it and accounting, and I see successful clients, I see clients who fail, I see people who should be doing well but aren't, and they've got things going on mentally or at home, and I'm thinking, what the hell? I get to lift up the bonnet on successful businesses, on bad businesses. So again, it's transactional for me, and I get to see all of the stuff. So you start to piece together what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So then I'd go home and I'd be talking to my dad and my stepmom, and we'd be talking about, finance and different things like that. And it would always come back to, oh, the country needs more education. And so eventually I just got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm just going to do my bit. So as a chartered accountant, one of our responsibilities, whether you accept it or not, is to take that knowledge or take your skill set and then help your community. Yeah. So most people will do that in a way where they'll sit on a board, or they will, do a free set of accounts for the swimming club, whatever. I'm like, that's not my thing, man. I'm gonna go bigger. I'm gonna try and help people that want to be helped. Let's build an audience of people that actually want to learn this stuff, and so that then they can go out a bit wider. And it sort of goes back to that Bible teaching where it's if you can teach a man to fish, then what happens off the back of that? Like, who do they teach? And I think that's how we then end up having a generational shift in education and wealth and things like that. So that was basically the crux of it. And then we were in lockdown, so I had more time. And so I just started writing, and then I knew, okay, probably need to be podcasts as well. And then I said to myself, because I'd sort of done projects before, I'm like, I'm going to do this for 10 years, and I'm just going to give it heaps for 10 years.
Wow.
And see where I can do in a decade.
Screw the 5 years before we were talking about 10 years, baby.
Yeah, because I knew I'd done the 5-year thing before, and I'm like, oh, I know it comes. I know it definitely comes after 5. So if I do 10, what's going to come?
Wow.
And I didn't get my first sponsorship, my first proper sponsorship, until year 4.
Wow. Year 4.
So it's taken till then. So I've been delaying gratification, but I haven't needed money from this. So then, I've got myself sweet on my accounting side of things. But what's ended up happening is I'm putting so much goodwill into the market, it then feeds people into Next Advisory anyway, my accounting practice. And they've been listening and they've been learning, and they're like, we trust you, we'll pay, let's go, help me. So then I help them individually with their business, and then they win, and then they go and teach other people as well. So the thinking was, I'm going to get myself sweet because you're a CA, and that's what a fellow CA said the night that I got my certificate. And he was the CEO of Fonterra, and unfortunately he's passed away now. But basically he said, you're always going to be good because you've got the skill sets, and you're going to learn how it all works, and there'll always be a good job as long as you look after your reputation. But I thought, well, that's all good and well for me, but it's not really how I've been brought up and wired. There's always been an element of giving back. And I thought, well, all good and well for me to be sweet and for my clients to be sweet, but why don't we make some everyday people sweet as well? And then we have a better country overall.
Wow. Learn, grow, and then share.
Yeah, man.
And what you're talking about, again, it links back to the providing value. You're adding more value to yourself, and then giving that to more and more people.
Yeah.
Massive. Speaking of education, what are your thoughts? You went to university, was it 22 years in total? What are your thoughts on the education system as a whole?
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts. So I'll try and keep it succinct because I did uni, and to become a CA, a chartered accountant, you got to do 4 years at uni back in when I was there. So just compulsory to put another barrier in, not 3 years, because it's 3 years to get your degree, but you need to do a 4th year at uni to qualify to become a CA. Then you go get a job, and then you get your CA. That takes 3 years. And then you're in the market of look at me, I'm a CA. Yeah. And then if you want to go out and build your own business, they're like, oh, now you need a certificate of public practice. And so then you got to do that. That takes a year. And so now you're basically 8 years of basically post school to become a CA. So you better want to make sure you want to do it. Yeah. But it can reward you. But I think there's the world's completely changed, right? And look at what we're sitting here doing today, and the access to information we now have, and the amount that you can learn from people that you don't need to go to a university anymore. And someone said to me the other day, oh, hey, I'm thinking about going back into debt so that I can become better at communications. I'm going to study that and it's going to open up doors in my career. And I said, I don't have a communications degree. I didn't study that at uni, but I make more than anyone that's in like doing communications. You know, I don't have a marketing degree, but I make more than most marketers in the country. So that could sound arrogant, but I guess it's showing you that like the way I got better at communicating and paid more than people who have a communications degree is to communicate a lot.
Doing like this, right?
We are in a doing world now. And the more that you do, the more you'll get paid, as long as you're in the right sort of vehicle. And you don't have to go to uni to do that anymore. Uni used to be a unlock of, okay, now you've shown that you've learned how to learn. Now we'll give you an interview. But I don't, like for some careers, it's definitely still a thing, but I just think we want to approach teaching our kids with caution that it's the thing to do. Part of why I went to, because I quizzed my olds on this eventually, I'm like, yo, why were you guys so hell-bent on us going to uni? And they're like, well, you know, in our day it was get a job, and I think it was the post office was like the safest job you can get. So they're looking for safety. And then it became, get an education, go to university, and then you're guaranteed to have a good income, which is sort of right. But like that's what they were taught. So then they teach our kids because they're trying to protect us. But now you could say to a kid, like if they're really good at something, you'd be like, okay, we need you to triple down on that. And it might be rugby, and it might be coaching rugby, or it could be, you know, art, or it could be communicating or podcasting. And there's so many more ways to make money because I'm 36, and when my parents were coming through, they didn't know the internet was going to be a massive thing. So they're not thinking, you know.
Different times, bro? I can relate to that completely, and the posty stuff as well. But there'll be a lot of people listening, bro, and I want to know your thoughts are, because a lot of, particularly young people, they stress over, man, am I doing the right thing? Should I be at uni? Should I be working? Should I be flatting? Should I be starting a family? You know, all these different things in life. And a different podcast I heard, I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Tim Ferriss, and he has this idea of effectiveness versus efficiency. And it is the what versus the how. And he believes the what you are doing is more important than the how. So do you agree? And that like the what meaning, what is the actual task, and that no task is just a task. What is it that you're actually doing? What are you focusing on is more important than the systems and the processes of how you're doing it.
And I think what he might be talking about there, and like this is just how I've interpreted that, and I could be wrong, but it is because if what you're doing is something you love doing, you'll find it easier to put the work in. So I did a workshop last night from 7 p.m. till 9. I'd already done a full day, and I'm just going for it, and people are like, man, you've got a lot of energy. And I'm fueling myself on the right food and stuff. And I got home at 9:30 and it's like to bed. Then I got to get up the next morning. I know my brain's going to wake me up and like, you need to send that replay out. And I'm just loving it. Like I'm in my zone, bro. I'm in my craft. You know, this is easy to do when it's what you want to be doing. So I think maybe that's part of what that is. But I think there's too much pressure on younger people to have it all figured out and to know what you want to do. You know, think about me, bro. I learned about investing. I brought my first share at 17. And if I just held on to that, I'd be minted now. And like I knew better. I knew better than everyone. But I got to uni and I'm like, credit cards, lazy boys. Oh, I'm earning 60 G's a year when I got out of uni. Like I can save $500 a fortnight. This is ridiculous. Just living the life. And I took till 28 before I was like, I need to tidy this shit up, man. What am I doing? So I wasted 10 years and I knew like I had all the education, but my behavior wasn't right. So then from 28 to 35, I've probably, in that 7 years, I've become a millionaire and I don't have any property. I don't have any debt. But, you know, that is like just ruthlessly working and stacking and adding value. And then like just, you know, I'm not doing a 9 to 5. I am cranking and then just stacking and stacking and stacking. But part of that as well is the value of my business. So some people will be like, yeah, you can't count that, bro. That's not how it works. Sweet as like that's how they look at it. All good. But my goal is to try and get to a liquid millionaire, to have basically $1 million of shares and cash and things just sitting there. And that's just for me like that, you know, everyone picks their own goals. But at one stage, man, I had to learn how to save $100,000. And even that sounds, well, how the hell do you do that? But I would just hover around 10 grand and think, man, I am like flying.
I'm cleaning it. Yeah.
But then my mindset would only get me to about 12. Then I'd blow it, or I'd get back to 8. So I had this ceiling.
Wow.
And I think we put these ceilings on ourselves because we don't realize what we're actually capable of. But then if you pick the right path and direction, like I knew that people were getting really wealthy in my space. And so I had to have a conversation with myself and be like, this has to be a me problem, because I'm reading about accounting partners that are making 400, 500 G's a year. I'm reading about them in America making $1 million a year in profit. I'm thinking, hey, but then I'm looking at them like, oh, they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s. Why am I thinking that I need to do this now?
Oh my God. Very relatable.
Yeah. So all of you young people, like, just chill.
Yeah.
But the sooner you can get directionally correct in a vehicle that could generate wealth, if that's what you want to do, and there's no shame in that, because the way I talk about it is, well, if you get yourself sweet, could you then get your family sweet? Could you get your community sweet? Like, go to your rugby club this weekend or whatever and go and have a look at who the sponsors are. And then go and tell them, you're an asshole for sponsoring the club, bro. You shouldn't have given the club money. They were like, mate, what the hell are you talking about? But that's how we treat rich people. We're like, oh, they got heaps. Of course they can. But that, it's all good to have more means than you need. If then you decide it's a tool, what are you going to do with the cash? What are you going to do with the shovel? Are you going to donate? Are you going to sponsor the club? Are you going to send someone to the, MMA competition that they couldn't access because they don't have the funds in their whānau, that sort of thing? That's a you decision, and you don't let anybody tell you, what it is that you're supposed to be doing with your money.
Wow.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah. No. What I'm getting is like decision making. So you in 10 years of making pretty shit decisions, the lazy boys, the credit cards, this, that. Was it just like I'm 28 now, shit, I got to sort my shit out? Or was it a continuous amount of time? What sort of made you, what was the click? What was the switch? Was it anything in particular?
Well, I guess I've been very lucky, bro, in that, like, I had a father who raised me to be like, you could be whoever you want to be. And I grew up believing that, and not everybody gets that. And that could be like, mate, if you're gay, we don't care. I'm like, oh, okay, man. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm trying to get my first girlfriend. What's all this about? But I was learning that I was capable of a lot. So then I was leaning into that, and then I'd be listening to motivational videos and, like, on YouTube, and these days people listen to podcasts. But I'd be listening to The Rock talk and be the hardest worker in the room. And I'm thinking, I think that's me. But I'm like, it's just not working. And I kind of just assumed that if you were good in life, that it just comes to you. But then I started to really accept that if you want it, you've still got to go and get it. And you can do good stuff for people, but they won't necessarily then just be like, hey, awesome, here's some money. They are still waiting for you to be like, would you like me to clean your gutter? Would you like me to help you with your accounting? And so the more offers I've made to help people, and then got better at saying, well, you have to pay for it, then it works. But I still have to make those offers. So I guess I'd been brought up well, thinking that I could be something, and I could tell that I wasn't the person that I thought I could be. And so that was probably my biggest frustration, is like, why am I not getting to where I want to go? And then I had to accept, well, you're not, like, being in a job and getting on the piss every weekend and spending your money, you're spending your earning ability when you take on debt. So you're basically borrowing money to get your thing in the here and now, and then telling your future self, cheers, bro, you got to pay that back. But in the meantime, like, we can't take any risks, we can't invest, we can't leave, we can't move towns, etc., because we're tied to repaying this debt. And eventually that was enough for me. I'm like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I know I've got bigger stuff in me. And then I had a job in Auckland, and I quit my job, and I had to tell the employer the same thing. I'm like, mate, like, I can't work here anymore because I know I'm capable of heaps, but I'm not going to do it in here. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I don't really know, but I just know I have so much belief in myself.
Oh my God.
Yes. I think I just programmed the shit out of myself with YouTube videos and these lone wolf YouTube videos on repeat and stuff. And I'm eventually just got my break and quit, and then started my first business. And was like, bang, now I'm in my sport. I found it, but it took till 28. And the first business didn't work, but I banked some lessons, and I learned about social media, learned about content. And then we started building out an accounting practice. And then I could start teaching some of the clients those lessons. And then it all started to make sense. I'm like, like I'm in the game now.
Yeah, bro. But you're only looking at, in retrospect now, at 36, looking at, the last 7 years, being like, oh, wow, that's why everything, and you piece it all together. Bro, I love this notion of becoming who you are capable of becoming. And you actually got a quote. I had to write it down, bro, because I think it'll be relatable to a lot of you guys as well. When we are younger, we are encouraged to dream and aspire. Nothing is out of bounds and no one can stop us. As we get older, that seems to disappear for many of us. I think that's such a massive shame, and we need to be asking ourselves who we are capable of becoming. This is quite different to what you want to be doing. Becoming who you are capable of becoming will guide you to do what you could be doing. We seem to have built up massive expectations for what others should be capable of, but maybe it's time to look in the mirror.
Oh,
brother.
Gee, that's profound, eh?
It is, bro. No, I think it's powerful. I think it spoke to me and it'll speak to many people, because it's kind of contradicting to what I asked you before about is the what more important than the how? It's actually like the who.
Yeah.
Hey, and what you're talking about there, it's kind of like focus on you as the individual, and the things that you do will come.
Yeah.
If you just continue to focus on becoming who you are capable of becoming, right?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I love that. And I talk about it all the time with clients and stuff, because I can see all these things that get in their way. And I'm like, so isn't like a really good tangible example of this? I had a client who they make 50 grand in sales a month, and they have their expenses. So they don't really make much profit. And they're like, we just want to have our first month when we do 75,000 a month. And I said, well, who do you think you need to become to do that? It's not what do you think you need to do. It's like, who do you need to become? Now, he then said to me, like before talking about that, he'd given me 3 examples of people that have reached out to them saying, we need to sit down and have a chat. We're seeing you doing some marketing and stuff. And I said, well, does the 70, did you ring them? No. Did you ring that person? No. Did you follow up with that person? No. Have you got leads that you've got proposals out with? No. Yes. And are we following them up? No. Do you think the person who makes $75,000 a month would do that? Yeah. Sweet. So are you prepared to become that person? Yes. Okay. Then what would they do? And so then they go, okay, I need to ring that person. I need to say, well, you said that you wanted to have a meeting with me. Let's have it. Yeah. Hey, you haven't responded to your proposal. Are you keen to go ahead? Yeah. And so then you change the person who you are, and you look at what would they do? And on our webinar last night for business owners, sometimes I'll say, look, you're not making the decisions anymore. You've got Jason Paris running your business, the CEO of Vodafone. What would he do? Mm-hmm. And if you could become him for 24 hours, what decisions would he make in your business? And it's a really powerful concept to help you get out of your mind and your body and the way that you look at things and go, okay, if I was somebody else that I'm capable of becoming, what would they do? Mm. And even in sport, it could be, does Bodie Barrett believe that he can slot the winner from the touchline at the 80-minute mark? Of course he does. But he had to become that person and choose that he could be that person, whereas we'd be like, oh man, I don't want that pressure, not for me. Yeah. I saw Richie Mwanga talking about visualizing kicking a goal to win a game from about the 40-meter mark, and literally that game from that same spot, he slots it and wins it. Yeah. I'm like, yo, this shit needs to be in every school in the country. That is the main piece out of this game. And it was just like a quick kind of, that's pretty cool. I'm like, no, that's everything. Yeah, bro. That is unreal.
But you also have to keep giving yourself the confirmation through doing these actions, through making these calls or whatever that guy was doing. Like, you got to do the things. Like Richie Wong is not practicing, the bros there training bloody every day, slotting them or whatever, he's giving himself that confirmation, right?
Yeah. And when he misses, he doesn't go, I missed, I'm not very good at this. You know what? I might use my other foot. Mm. He's like, I need to go back to my process and I need to line up and just make sure I get the next one. But what we do, because we're not in those environments to learn those skills, we go, this doesn't work, I need to do something drastic. Yeah. And then that doesn't work. And then we're like, I am shit at this. But people that are really successful normally have processes. And so then what you do is you look at someone who's successful or that you would like to become, and then you ask them, hey, what are your processes? Like, take me through your week. Take me through how you'd approach this. And then you just start to become that person. Then you get their results and it all makes heaps of sense.
Wow. Yeah. Environment, eh?
Hard.
Who you are capable of becoming. I fucking love that, bro.
Yeah, I think we need more Kiwi people thinking about this, because it's tough out there at the moment. And I think there is this sort of perception that it's not going to get better, but it gets better when we choose that it can get better. And then we start taking different actions. And there are Kiwis that are capable of so much more, but someone's told them like, you can't do that. Or who do you think you are, bro? Oh, you love yourself. And then we're like, oh, okay, back to my shell.
Yeah.
But you become the person that you are capable of. You're still going to get that. You know, the All Blacks win on the weekend, everyone's still complaining it wasn't enough and whatnot. And Anton shouldn't have been yellow carded. And it's like, they're still got to deal with that shit, even though they are the best, you know, in their chosen field. And like, I ain't playing.
For sure.
I can't rock up and be like, hi guys, can I have a turn? They'd be like, hey, hit the bricks. And people would, if I went out there and said, I'm going to play for the All Blacks this week, people would take the piss out of me. You're an idiot. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
All Blacks don't perform to other people's potential, what we expect them to. Like, God, not good enough, man.
Yeah.
Bizarre. These same people turn up to work hungover on a Monday and shit and don't expect much of themselves, but it's just flawed.
Negativity,
Yeah.
Bro, let's dive into, speaking of an action that people could make, investing. What, an area I'm keen to learn more about too. You don't have to be super specific here, but what does your investment portfolio look like?
Yeah, fair enough. So firstly, myself.
I'm going to just hit my pen.
Firstly, myself and my income earning ability, because going back to what we were talking about before, unless I earn more or could earn more, I didn't have enough to be able to stack aside to then try and get closer to my goal of $1 million, right? And I'm not saying everyone needs a goal of $1 million. It could just be that you want to try and, you know, have a crack at the housing market, for instance. So you've got to know where you're going to start with, and then the what it becomes a little bit clearer, right? But me, like myself, and then I think one of the best investments people can make that we don't talk about is save some money, spend some time selling shit around your house that you don't need and don't use anymore. Turn that into cash, and you go on Trade Me or you go on Marketplace and you do that, and you learn that as a skill to start with. So now you've got a skill. And you learn how to sell and you learn how to transact. But take that money and go and do 1 hour of counseling, $350 or something, and just unpack what's holding you back.
Wow.
You might turn that into $300,000. But instead we'll be like, nah, man, what's the next crypto? I want to get a meme coin or something. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, tidy your mind up first. So I've become quite big on that recently. I did a little bit of that stuff years ago. And now looking back, you're like, oh, that's where I started learning about limiting beliefs and programming and different things like that. And so those little things are actually the exponential investments. So actually investing into ourselves. I went to a nutritionist last week. I asked on Keep the Change. I'm like, who's a great nutritionist? Bang, I get, let's say, the best rugby league team in the country. Their physio being like, mate, here's the details. Tell them I sent you. Bang. $400, told someone else, it's $400. They're like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm like, mate, this could change the trajectory of my life. So
perspective, right?
Yeah, those little things are, I think, where you actually get your big jumps, but we're all looking for the, like, what do we put our money into? For me, like, I'm trying to get to the milli, right? So I'm not trying to, my first 100 was literally, I'm not going to invest in anything. I literally took my spare cash and gave it to my sister. And I'm like, do not give it back to me because I cannot be trusted. But I was teaching myself, could I get there? And could I become that person that saves $100,000? And I was thinking, okay, what does someone who saves $100,000 and stacks it, like, who do they need to be? And I'm like, they probably don't need access to it. They probably don't need my current behaviors. So then I just removed my access to it to prove that I could become that person. And now that I've done it, I'm like, whoa, just reset my ceiling 10x from the 10,000. So that was just as simple as I kept that. And then I started to look at things and go, right, some shares in different companies or New Zealand companies. I love New Zealand business, so I like to invest into New Zealand. People don't. And fund providers would be like, do not do that. Invest into America. It's got a better economy.
Yeah.
So just basically dollar cost average. So that basically means like buy the stock market every week at the S&P 500, and hopefully it continues up and to the right. And that's, fine for some people. I have a little bit of that, but I contribute to KiwiSaver. You could argue I don't need to because I can build enough wealth outside of that. But for me, it's just another pool of money. And what I like about it is I can't touch it. But that's what people hate about it. Whereas I think, if I can't touch that until I'm 65, how big is that pool of cash? And if I get to 65 and I'm completely sweet and I don't need that, maybe that's my pool of cash that I then give to someone to manage and say, right, every year, $5,000 has to go to a scholarship to Palmy Boys because that, I learned a lot there and that place lifted me up. And so then I have a pot of money that I can then do something with that isn't just about my retirement. Yes. So I'm thinking way bigger than just, like how can I look after myself?
Yeah.
So then, so I contribute to KiwiSaver. I buy some crypto every week because I want to be involved in that speculation play, and maybe I nail it, maybe I don't, but I'm willing to lose that money because I know if I go back to my first thing to invest in myself and my ability to generate income, that if all this shit goes to zero, I've still got the skills that I have and I know I can make it back. So don't risk everything you have on, that's I guess the biggest risk that people can take is stacking some money and then going, right, I'm going to roll it all into this.
Yeah.
And then if you lose that, you've got to go all the way back to the start. So you haven't lost the money. You've lost what it took you to do it. And it might have been a year or 2 years of working. So be very careful rolling all in on something because you're not just losing the money. You're basically going to take your mind back to shit, I've got to go through that again.
Sweet one.
And that was me with that credit card, like spend the 15G credit card. Now I got to spend a year tidying it up. But in that year, bro, I could have been investing. I could have been investing in things I knew about, A2 Milk, Zero, etc. that popped off. But I couldn't because I was just paying Westpac back. Here you go, guys, ringing them up. Oh, can I decrease my limit $500? That was literally my life on a payday. I'd be like, sweet, I've gone to the gym, come back, my pay's in there. Oh, hi guys, can I please decrease my limit? Are you sure you would like to decrease that? Yes, it's me from the last fortnight and the fortnight before and the fortnight before. I'm trying to pay this off. So I got into that, and then I invest into a fund that lends money to businesses to then help them execute on their strategies where they can't get funding from the banks and things like that. And then that fund provider pays me a drip of money every month. And basically my whole strategy was, how can I invest into things that pay me a return? So people who listen to Keep the Change, when I talk about Heartland Bank a lot, it's a bank that pays a dividend. Yeah. So for me, it was about, okay, how can I get these multiple streams of income and little drips of money coming in? Because it is pretty exciting. Yeah, when you get to a point where it becomes meaningful. Now, I think the first time it really hit for me was that I had some money saved and I had it in a term deposit. And every week it was about $20. I'm like, oh, holy shit, the gym is free.
Yeah.
The gym is free now. Yeah. Wow, this is okay. And I'm like, whoa, what else could be free? And so I started thinking, how could I subsidize my rent? Like, what would I need to save and then get a return on so that when I'm paying my rent, I'm like, well, I don't really pay my rent anymore. The bank does, or this fund does, or this company does because they're paying me a dividend. And so that's where my mind went to. And then it helped me make more sense of, well, I don't really care about paying rent anymore when heaps of people can't get their head around. They're like, oh, wasted money. I'm like, well, I'm not really paying my rent because I only pay 60% of it because now 40% of it's covered by my investments that drop me out some cash.
Dividend,
yeah. So I started thinking like that. But then you'll have someone who will say, oh, that's silly though. You should take those returns and you should compound them and you should reinvest. And that's how you really grow the snowball like Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Correct. But for me, I was trying to invest to a point where I could get returns to subsidize my living costs.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Bro, I love that. That's mental though as well, right? That's a crazy, mindset shift as well.
And I wasn't thinking like that when I had 10 Gs or even had 100. I took like the mind moment of, whoa, the gym is free. Like they're paying for the gym. Holy shit. Westpac pay my gym membership now. And then I made it tangible. And then I'm like, whoa, what else is possible?
Yeah, looking at your expenses differently now, eh? Yeah. What's covering my own expenses? Ooh, I love that. That's another gem. Speaking of KiwiSaver, bro.
Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know, KiwiSaver is a retirement fund. Bro, a lot of the people listening will be younger men. And I feel like the argument, and you probably have heard this many, many times, but they would say, why would I wait till I'm 65 till I have to cash this out when I can just put this 10 grand or into my savings account or into this crypto coin or whatever?
Yeah, good point.
What do you say to those? Could be women as well.
Yes.
What do you say to those people?
So I get it because I do think we need to challenge what retirement is. And it could be like, why do we want to wait till 65 to retire? But also when you start studying wealthy people, bro, and people who have a lot of money, they don't stop working because they get depression and they get unwell and they upset their wife and they hate their life and then they start working again. and you're like, oh, there's a lesson in there.
Yeah.
But we're being programmed, bro, that you get to 65, you get this magical pension, you get your KiwiSaver money, and then like you just sit around and you just wait for your fucking brain to die, excuse my language, and your body to die.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually what our bodies are meant to do. So maybe we need to think about how could I, live the life that I want throughout that period anyway, because probably retirement was about, getting people off the tools of their hard factory jobs and that industrial type age. And I've done years in distribution centers, and I can see like how taxing it is on your body. A lot of work these days is like mind and doing that sort of, work rather than physical. But yeah, you can see for tradies and stuff that they probably don't, their bodies are going to start giving out on them. So you have to be careful, but we've got to look after ourselves, right? So then people will think, well, what is retirement? And I don't know, but individually, I think we have to figure out what we want retirement to look like. But for those who don't contribute because they think, well, I would rather just invest that myself, I get it, but will you? And are you? But also the bit you're missing is that your employer, if you contribute 3%, your employer contributes 3% as well. So you're getting 100% return. I know a lot of people who invest money, and not many of them can get 100% return on that cash. So you might just want to contribute the minimum and know that your employer matches it. And then you've got dollar for dollar. So you're speeding up your savings. And then the government is going to give you $521 of your tax back as well if you put in 1,043. So even when I went on a KiwiSaver break to clear some of my credit back in the day, I would still put that 1,043 in because I'm like, I'm going to take a 50% return every day. I understand this shit.
For sure.
And people were like, oh, but you can't touch it and stuff. And it's like, that's why it's like that. Because you have to, what happens, bro, is we get a little bit of knowledge and we think we can game the system. Yeah. My biggest fear for KiwiSaver is that people who go hard and do it and protect themselves and look after themselves and get to their retirement and are sweet, they're going to be the envy of people who don't. And those people that say, no, I'll invest myself and I'll figure out how I'm going to use my money and whatnot. If they don't do that, bro, they're going to sit there and they're going to go, well, they're privileged, man. That should be means tested. And so we're always asking the government to do more for us. And the government say, right, we're going to set up this investment scheme to help out vulnerable people and people who don't have access to education. Then we're like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'll just do it myself. And then you don't do it. And then you get to 65, be broke and go, the government should have done more, man. Yeah, wow. This is unfair. So I feel like that's what's going to happen in my lifetime in 30, 40 years time when the pot gets big enough, and we will have a big conversation where those people who have done the right thing or think they've done the right thing, they will be, I don't know what the word is, but they will be like the target. Yeah. And that will probably be what helps bring in different forms of tax and stuff as well, or means testing for superannuation. So arguably for me, bro, if I think that, I shouldn't even be encouraging people to get into KiwiSaver. Yeah. Because if I know that I'm going to be sweet, well, then I'm going to get impacted. I'm probably not going to get the pension because I'm going to get means tested if I follow my level of thinking. So I probably want less people into KiwiSaver that get themselves sweet so that we don't see this happen. Wow. But I'm trying to come at it from a non-selfish angle where I think there are people who need to be looking after themselves but don't have that education. They've basically set guardrails up for you. And the likes of Generate KiwiSaver, they have advisors that will speak one-on-one with you and help you understand your money. And they've made financial advice accessible because financial advice historically has just been available for people who have large amounts of money or large amounts of debt because those are the biggest commissions. Wow. So the everyday person, man, I don't need to worry about you, man. They don't want to give you advice. You got 10 grand. We don't make any money off that. So Generate have broken that down, and some of the other KiwiSaver providers, to be fair to them too. And we're still like, nah, I'm not doing that shit. The government are controlling it. Like, you just have to understand how it works to start with. So just be very careful what you think you know about something in this space and then just go down the path. Okay, if I believe this, that contributing is a bad idea, then what am I going to do instead? Yeah.
What's the alternative?
Yeah. And what's my life going to look like in 65 years time, or 40 or whatever it is, right? But also you're going to remove your ability to complain because you make your choice. You make your choice at 20, 30, etc. to nah, I can do it myself. When you get to 65, if you're broke, then you can't really be like, oh, this is unfair because they tried to help you along the way as well.
You got to take the ownership.
Yeah.
Wow. If you want some more knowledge, go and keep the change. I'm sure there's many episodes about KiwiSaver on there. Bro, you recently went to the States.
Yeah.
The Vault Conference. Is that what it was called?
Vault Conference, yeah.
How was that, bro?
Oh, it was epic, mate.
Yeah?
And for me, part of that was, so Mikey, who I do a lot of the Keep the Change episodes with, he paid for everything. So again, like adding value to someone else's life. He's like, I've got it. Like I probably spent $1,000 tops. He was just tap-a-rooing on everything, tickets, flights, everything.
Wow.
As, thank you to being a bit of a running mate with him and keeping him, on the straight and narrow, and he gets work out of Keep the Change and stuff as well. And that's just, his way of saying thank you. And for us, it was about getting around some bigger think and just having our eyes open to how they do it in the States.
Yeah.
And it's just completely different, bro. Like, I guess a good example, especially for younger people, is that there was these 23-year-old lads sitting in front of us. And they all want to like talk to each other and like, what do you do? And they're just hungry. There's 8,000 people at this conference, but they were selling solar. So they're in the solar industry and they were learning sales. And so that then they could take it into another thing later on. So they don't know what they want to be doing yet, but they're like, I know this is a good skill to have. You say to a Kiwi, oh mate, go and learn sales. Your uncle will tell you at a barbecue at Christmas, like, you're an idiot, mate. It's disgusting. Oh, sales. Oh, who do you think you are? Slimy piece of shit. And these kids are like, oh man, I need to learn selling. And then if I get into the right vehicle, I can kill it. And I'm saying, oh, so what do you make? And they're like, well, if you're not making $100,000 US, like you're wasting your time. You should be aiming for 250. You can make 400 in this industry. Whereas, then they just like, that's normal. I'm like, lads, you do that in New Zealand, you're going to get tall poppied. They're like, what the hell is tall poppy? Yeah. We're trying to explain to them. They're like, why would people treat each other like that? I'm like, I don't know, mate. I'm not sure. Yeah. But it happens.
Wow. No, one of the biggest, just from your content that you were sharing, one of the biggest takeaways I took from it was in regards to scale.
Yeah.
The numbers, the amount of money, the amount of people, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think because we live in Aotearoa, we live in such a small country, do you think that is a weakness?
It builds limitations for us that aren't real. So then we don't have these big examples of scale. And then when we do, they just feel way too unfamiliar. Yeah. But over there, if you got, they got, I think 6% of their population are millionaires. There's too much data to suggest that it can't be done.
You can do it.
Yeah. And then you got access to more people. Like, how'd you do that? Like, why are you doing that way? Oh, what do you do? And then you then have new belief systems because there's environment and too much data. So it breaks your bullshit. Like, you can't really roll around in America saying, oh, it's impossible to get ahead here. They're like, whoa, this is but there's always education is always the key, right? And if you've got the right education and the right market and doing the right thing, you're going to kill it. But I think here, because the market is so small, then we hit our ceiling quite quickly. Yeah. And then we'll see businesses in New Zealand go, or even like Kiwis at the moment, they're like, I'm going to move to Australia. If we had an epic economy with big thinking stuff here, you wouldn't need to go to Aussie. Yeah. And it's a blessing and a curse that it's there. And sometimes I challenge people. I'm like, if Aussie wasn't there, now what? Now what would you do? Bro. You'd be forced to become someone different. So something I'm real big on, bro, is if we can teach more people that you earn money by having valuable skills and teaching those, well, then you can go on to a platform like School, SKOOL, and you can teach those skills to the world. And it's all there on the internet.
Alex Hormozy?
Yeah, he's invested into that. But that platform started by a Kiwi.
Wow.
Now that should be a success story for this nation, but that's someone who got out of New Zealand and was like, too small here. I'm going to go to the States and I'm going to figure it out. And there's some training videos now where Sam Ovens is in there, and a lot of people don't like him, sleazy, blah, 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 just all this bullshit again. But it's like, well, have you built what he's built? Like, what have you built? But anyway, he's created this platform and Hormozy's invested into it. But you can create a community and you can have a classroom in there. You can load up links to Zoom so you can have calls with people. There's a payment gateway.
Wow.
And that's all at our fingertips, but we don't teach people how to do it. And then we go well, I couldn't do that. It's like, but why not? Because there's a piano teacher on there and they might be making 100,000 US a year. Or there is someone who's really keen on the environment and they're showing people, things that you could be doing and how to live a more frugal life. There is so much on there. Yeah. And they've basically made education the ability for us all to be a paid teacher. It's all done for us. But we'll take 10 years before we realize it's a thing.
See, and that's it, bro. The opportunities are there. As you say, education is key. We just don't know. Yeah. Yeah. But we need to know. Yes. This is why I'm so grateful, bro.
I do think on that, bro, Artie Severe he's got one. So he's seen it and he's selling access to him. Yeah. Where you can learn from him some of his training things. And I think it might be, I don't know, but it might be $20 a month, say US, right? And and so he'll have some recurring income. He figured it out.
You see?
And it's just him going, okay, what is my skill set? What can I turn into money? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how the whole world works.
Yeah. Outside of finance, what else gets you excited? What else gives you joy?
Like I love business, so I love reading about it, seeing what people are doing. It's really hard for me to go. Like I love going to events and being like, oh man, I wonder how much the average ticket price here, or how'd they get that sponsor? Oh, why have they got set up? So you start to ruin your experience because your brain is just like looking
constantly. Yeah.
And I mean, it kind of goes, well, for some people, they'll probably think it goes against like everything, but I've always liked having a bet on horses, for instance, like doing it in a safe manner. I've definitely had my days of in that wrong period of thinking, is that how you make money? And then you realize like, oh, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot through that period too. But I'll like going to things like that, even bro, just chilling out and actually not doing much and just sitting there and maybe reading a couple of articles and stuff. And then, but the problem is, in my brain will get an idea. I'm like, boom, we're back on.
Go. What's next?
Yeah. So probably just the same as other people, and you'll see me out too many beers deep in the viaduct at times. And I'm definitely not a perfect person or anything, man. I've got things that I'm into that other people would say you shouldn't be doing that and whatnot. I love going to the gym and sauntering and things like that. So I just tried to I tried to take things out of my life that I don't like doing and just do more of the things that I do like doing. And then that protects my energy and makes the things that I do a lot easier to do.
Wow. I love that, bro. Speaking of not being the perfect person, you obviously got many great qualities. What do you think you need to work on going forward? Yeah.
Like sometimes I wonder if I'm too like in your face, like too, because when like I've done 600 podcasts for Keep the Change now, right? And I've been writing for years and I've done thousands of pieces of content. And then someone will be like, oh, hey bro, like I've got $20. Like, where do you think I should invest it? And I'm like, oh man, but I'm too far down the path now to relate with that person. And it frustrates me. And I have to try and like decompress. And I want to be like to them, you're thinking too small. Like, or it's the people who are like, oh, you're going to own nothing and be happy. And I'm like, dude, you're broke, bro. Like, why does it matter? You've got $3,000. Like, let's figure out how to get 300 grand. And I'm at a lunch with a NZ rich lister. He ain't telling me like, mate, have you heard we're going to be broken and be happy? Yes. Like we're going to own nothing and be happy. So I'm like, there's these people that get themselves stuck, and it really frustrates me. And so I think sometimes I can be quite short to them because I'm just like, oh no, I can see that they've got themselves stuck. And I think if we just get you out of there, then bang, you're off on a new path and your potential is so much bigger. But they won't listen to the podcast and they will send me stuff all the time. And, or it could be people that are complaining and it's like, poor me, the government and stuff. That really frustrates me because I've done so much work to know that nothing good comes in there. And when we just keep telling ourselves things that don't serve us well, you eventually, like my job with business owners is to help them get rid of that. So if they come and say, oh, our market's buggered and we can't do this and our employees are always, it's just chaos. We're like, maybe you're the chaos. Yeah. And so my whole job is basically, okay, cool, we get it, we hear you, but how are we going to fix it? So I'm always on fixer mode, and people who don't want to be fixed, they show up in my life and I'm like, whoa, I can't handle this. Yeah. And then I probably speak unfairly to them, or don't say something that's kind of going to guide them to that next stage, because content and podcasting and stuff is really about meeting people where they're at. Yeah. And someone once said to me, well, don't run a business seminar and have heaps of successful people speaking, although you would think that's the thing to do. But people are going to go, well, I don't have 150 staff. I don't want to. I'm trying to figure out how to get my first staff member. Yeah, wow. So you have to kind of meet people where they are, because there's only a small amount of people that go, wow, they got 150 people. Like, who am I to not have one? I'm going to hire someone. Yeah. Most people will be like, bro, tell me how to hire the first one. How did you know?
Different stages, though.
Yeah. So you've got to sort of meet people. But as I go further down my journey and achieve more, it's harder for me to slow down and be like, oh, okay, I don't know how many ways I can tell you that it doesn't matter if you're with ASB, Westpac, or ANZ and it's 5.4% on the interest rate versus 5.4 versus 5.7. Like that's just noise.
Yeah.
We want to be thinking, okay, how do we think bigger? What's possible for me? What other levers can I pull?
Do you think you struggle with anything?
Not really, like not working.
Yeah.
Probably like sometimes I just want to keep cranking, and my default on the weekends at the moment is like I just want to go to the office because I'm just enjoying the wave that I'm on.
Yeah.
But my life will change, and I'm willing to adapt when things change in my life. But
so what you're saying is kind of like balance?
Balance is probably a topic on its own.
Yeah.
But to some people, probably like don't show up as much for my friends and things like that as I used to because I'm just going too hard on my own goals and things like that, which for some people they won't be able to relate to and they won't like, and it's probably like, where's he gone or whatever. So like sometimes I think about that stuff. I'm like everyone, bro, when you get negative feedback or someone really doesn't like you, then I'm like, oh, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah.
So I have to get better at, if you want to take all the good feedback, you have to take the negative stuff too and just accept that there will be people that, I put a YouTube video up the other day and it's like straight away someone's like, you're a fool. And I'm like, oh, how come? Like, what do you mean? But then someone's like, bro, don't reply to that person. But sure. I'm always interested in how people think to then help me create more content. Yeah, but then you end up in a cycle of like just understanding shit that's actually not that important, where you think, you've just actually got a lot of work to do and you can get yourself out of that. But if they don't want help, it doesn't matter. And so I find that interesting that people will come to Keep the Change, for instance, and it's like, well, you don't actually want to tidy your finances up. So like, don't even follow this. Yeah. You're not, the teacher appears when the student's ready, right? You've probably heard that saying.
Yeah, bro.
So then if you're not ready to be a student, like why are you here commenting on all these posts and leaving negative shit and bringing down the people who are trying to get ahead? Like this is not your thing.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre, the people who have very little expectations of themselves and of their life, they will often be the loudest.
End up provoking the most negative towards you, right?
And you think, bro, you should be the happiest because you don't think that much is possible for you. So then why are you telling people that it's all You should be thinking, man, I figured it all out. It's all broken. I'm sweet. I'm just going to coast through to the finish line now. Yeah. So that to me doesn't make sense that they can be have such a strong belief that things aren't possible, but then they have to go and tell everyone. Because I think what's happening is they're seeing data to tell them like, oh, that actually doesn't line up with how they see the world.
Yeah.
Well, how does that person have a rental property? How did that person make $300 in a day?
Their own perceptions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They rented out their Airbnb, but what about their positions? Someone could have stolen them.
Yeah.
And so then when someone's doing something that conflicts with their belief system, they've got to defend and be like, you don't understand. And it's like, well, no one actually needs to hear your belief system there. This is just data from someone else saying it worked for them and that's great and that's what they did. You don't, it's all good. Just carry on. And probably the other thing, bro, I get frustrated or I sometimes get not upset, but it guts me a little bit that I can't resonate with women or build female audiences because they are like powerhouses in finance and stuff like that. My audiences will always sort of skew male, probably just because it's more relatable because that's me and whatnot. But when I grew up, my parents taught me that like everybody is the same, treat everybody equally and whatnot. And there'll be times in my life where I don't do that, but I'm quite inclusive, so I want like everybody to be involved. And then when women are like, "Oh, we can't learn from you," I'm like, "Hey, like that's a you thing. That's a limiting belief in your head." And then I get the backlash of, you don't understand, and we've been held back. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to help you." Okay, yeah, great. That is the issue. So then here you go. Here's some information. No, I want to learn from this person or whatnot. So that I'm like, how do we break that? Or maybe it's not my problem to solve.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do you have any strategies or any ideas of what to do in that regard to get more women on board or women, female eyes?
Again, bro, I think it's the teacher appears when the student's ready, right? And people will learn from, they see people that they can resonate with. So there'll be some people who just can't resonate with me on this, right? And they won't get through to this stage. But I think you just have to keep being yourself because as soon as you start trying to be someone else, then it just breaks, bro. And you can't, you're being a fraud and and then you start eroding your own self-worth and then you start losing your confidence and everything unravels. So for me, I just try and share my truth and how I think and how and what's worked for me. And then I've just stayed to that. And I'm like, people either believe it and then they can find some help in it. But I got an email this morning, bro, from this lady, and she said, I'm 50 and, I'm not your target demographic. I'm like, no, you are, because you're an action taker. That's my target demographic.
Wow.
People who are going to take this knowledge and make their life better, because my goal is to help 100,000 Kiwis get better at financial literacy, and then they can go and teach other people. Then we have more educated people, and then we have a better country. So you are my target demographic, but I think people assume like, oh, you're a dude or something, so I'm probably not your demographic. So it's funny that
that is so interesting.
Yeah, that she would lead with that. But yeah, she had learned about extra income. She started working in a hospice. She saved 12 grand. Like, she told me the exact figure that she'd save, and she's paying down her mortgage, and she's set to be mortgage free in 2 years. And bro, like, these people just want to tell people about their success.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome and it's powerful. And I think we need to do more of that. But in New Zealand, we're so scared to do it because
tall poppy. Yeah.
And if you're telling someone, oh, like, I'm going to be mortgage free in 2 years, and you're telling your mate who's, hasn't got into a property yet or whatever, they can be like, bro, what?
Yeah.
And so then we're like, oh, better not share. But we need more people celebrating success and telling these stories, which then just plant seeds of nuggets. And I think your guys' generation and younger people are, you're hungry. You're like, yo, where are they?
Yeah,
you're not as dismissive. You're like, oh, okay, we want to be savvy. We want to get this shit right from the start.
100%.
Yeah. And you're more open to it. Whereas I think our generation, or maybe older, a bit more like cynical of, oh, well, I was never taught that. So,
closed-minded.
That's, and the funny thing I always say, bro, when parents give me that shit, I'm like, oh, sweet. So you're not going to learn it for your kids.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, let's change the meaning. Like,
selfish.
I've never learned how to invest. So I'm like, oh, sweet. So you're going to teach your kids that. So maybe you should learn for your kids. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm going to set up a Sharesies account and put $1 in for my daughter or my son. Yeah. And bang, light bulb moment, like life changer. Because it's not about them anymore. It's about, oh shit, okay, you're right. How do I break the cycle here?
Oh man. And you can correlate to many different things, like learning a language. Like, a lot of our parents who may not be able to speak Māori, they speak Māori so that they can pass it on to their kids. And I think it's just another example of that.
Yeah.
In a finance way. Future Luke. 5-10 years, where do you want to see yourself, brother? What do you want to have done, achieved, etc.?
Yeah, man. It's like, once you start achieving some of the things that you had seen that you could do, you then realize actually it's not these big massive leaps. It's just stick to the process, like the Moangas and the Bowden Barretts and stuff, and keep doing the reps, and then things happen. So I can see in my future probably like a big business type conference, or even a conference where anybody can come to, no matter if they're broke, in debt, whether they're minted, whatever, but it's a safe space. And you can come for the day and we can do some learning, and we have great speakers and people that can give you this financial education. We call it like finance of fitness, where you go once a year and it's like, right, what do I need to learn this year? Yeah. And I'm thinking, do we pack out Spark Arena? Is it the Auckland events, the Viaduct Event Centre? Wow. And then I start, looking up. I'm on ChatGPT. How much does it cost to hire out Spark Arena? I'm like, 6 figures. I'm like, oh man. So then your problems become way bigger, bro. It's like, oh great, I stacked 100 grand. Cool. Now I'm like, man, how am I going to make 100 G's to pay for the hireage of Spark? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to have to charge these people. Oh, maybe I get some sponsors. And so then your brain like starts looking for the solution. So little things like that, bro. I just want to do bigger things that are then going to force me to become somebody I'm not. Like, I haven't hired a venue for 100 G's. Yeah. So I could probably do that now and pay for that myself. But then I'm like, I'm going backwards for 100 G's. So I'm like, and I know that it's 100 grand flat that it came up on ChatGPT. So I'm like, I know that can't be accurate because nothing that ends in a zero is truth. So then I'm like, okay, who do I need to become to hire 100G venue? What have they done? Who is hiring it? How are they doing it? Oh, there's some of my answers.
Wow.
Yeah. So that sort of ties that principle back from earlier on. And you can apply that just in whatever it is that you're doing. And you can be like, okay, who do I need to become to get a pay rise? Like, probably not the guy that's like, this place is a shithole, man. Turn up late, always there at 4:59, bouncing out the door, going, oh, see you suckers. Like, that ain't going to get you a pay rise. Like, who do you need to be to get a pay rise? So you can apply it to anything. But more of the same, bro, helping more people. I do wonder when I get to 10 years of Keep the Change, whether I'll go, great, like project done. Now we're on to new project. But I don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
And it might just go like, great, all the content's there now. There's a bank. Tata, like, see you guys. I'm off over here doing this now. But, you know, please use the education and better yourself.
Yeah.
So I've got that to work through because I only gave myself 10 years to do the project. But, you know, it has some people like, oh, you should write a book. That scares the shit out of me. But maybe like I go into a bookstore and I'm like, oh yeah, why can't I
do that?
Yeah. And so then as you do more, man, and achieve more, and people start telling you, like someone said to me the other day, oh, there's no doubt that you'll have 10 million in the next 10 years. I'm like, whoa, like someone's got massive confidence in me. And so then people start seeing in you more than what you can see in yourself as well. And then I think, oh, that's what that dude thinks I'm capable of. Like, of course I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think, you know, like vision boards and stuff like that are quite important too. And I've planted like NZX logos on some vision boards and things and think like, do I run an NZX company? Do I list something in the future? Who knows, man? I just playing the game.
That's exciting, brother.
Yeah.
I love that. What about younger self? Young Luke? Any age you can think of? It's just you and him. What do you want to say to him?
Man, I would say like, bro, it is you. Like, go, speed it up. Don't do the dumb shit. You are capable of a lot. You're not full of yourself. You just need to get going. And the faster you get going, you're going to have more time to compound. So the how you think of yourself and how highly you think of yourself is true, is accurate. It is who you can be, and you will help a lot of people, and you'll get yours. And yes, you'll make a lot of money. And you'll have a life that you can see. So stop wasting the time and get out there and get going. But I think, you know, what we do is we stay in the comfort area for a little bit too long because, you know, eventually I had to go, well, I'm on 80 grand a year as an accountant. My life's pretty good. And I'm going to quit. And I don't really know what that's going to look like. And it's scary. And I might not have any, you know, income and things like that. And that's the scary bit of going all the way back to the start and think, because I got back to broke, like I had nothing.
Yeah.
So I was back to zero and I'm like, oh man, like I've got to build all the way from here. So I would just tell him, it is you, bro. Like that is what your life will look like. Foot on the gas, man. Get the distractions out of the way and go for it.
Yeah, bro. I think a lot of people, particularly younger people, need to hear that too. So,
epic.
We have a closing tradition on this podcast, brother, where the previous guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who he or she is. The question for you today is, if you had to pick a career from your childhood dreams that never happened, what would it be and how different do you think your life would be now?
Bro, this is funny, because I loved rugby league and still do, and love getting to the Warriors. So I missed that before. And when the Kiwis would lose, when I was at uni, I'd be like, F this, I'm going to the gym, I'm under the squat rack and I'm squatting 45 kilos and I'm like, I'm going to play for the Kiwis. And then I'm like, yo, this is not happening with this reggae. I don't think I am that guy. But I was fascinated by league and rugby league and playing for your country and things like that. And then I guess what I learned is, you know, that wasn't, I was directionally incorrect. And now I think I kind of, like I see myself as an athlete. So I go and seek out PT support, nutrition support, and I see myself as an athlete in business and in the things that I do.
Wow.
So I've kind of taken some of those lessons and then made them a bit more directionally correct.
Yeah.
But I do think that would have been a pretty sick, you know, I'd get Scott Curry, who plays for the Sevens. I'd be like, bro, can I have your training manual?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, getting to football preseason, I played soccer, like hissing fit, and like I'm taking training, like I'm taking the fitness, and they'll be like, oh man, like what are you, bro, it's just the preseason. I'm like, I've already done my preseason before the preseason. So I've always sort of been a little bit that way inclined. So I think sport interests me. But yeah, if I could do my time again at uni, I would probably do accounting and psychology, because what I've learned is that so much of life is actually psychology. So I can tell a client what they need to do, but I can't get them to do it because I can't figure out how to explain to them like what's happening up here.
Yeah, bro.
So I can be like, okay, you need to raise your prices. If you don't, we're going to end up in trouble. And they're like, oh, okay. And so I've got to try and figure out what's stopping them, and then teach them like, okay, this is what's happening for you, but trust me, if we do X, Y, Z. So I've really become quite fascinated with psychology and stuff like that. So,
bro, me too. Very recently too, psychology.
Yeah.
I think it's with even this sort of stuff as well.
Well, you'd start to notice it, bro. Like everything just becomes a bit of a game in that space. But I think if there's any advice I could give younger people who want to make money, the best vehicle in New Zealand to get closer to money flow is probably real estate.
Yeah.
And that was never my thing. I've had some cousins that have done that, but basically you're clipping the ticket on people that are transacting the highest value assets in the country. And there's a low barrier to entry. And one of my clients who's in that space said, my boss said to me, if you just do 7 years of this, you'll be sweet because you'll go through a cycle of up and down, but the skills you'll learn, you'll watch all the people when it gets hard get weeded out.
Wow.
And you can get, like, you're not swapping your time for money anymore. But property might not be your thing. So then think, okay, what else? It could be recruitment and basically getting very good at recruitment, building up networks and placing people in the right jobs and stuff. So if you can get closer to the money, then you will realize that the whole, that it is easy to make money. You just have to figure out where is it flowing all the time and how can you put value in the middle and then you get yours.
Watch your vehicle, get in the game.
That's it.
Luke Kemeys, ladies and gentlemen.
Easy.
Any final words, brother?
Just like believe in yourself and just don't let society bring you down, especially in this sort of environment where it is tough and tricky out there. But society and people who are struggling have no right to tell you that you can't be who you want to be or that you can't have the dreams that you can. And just because we're from, I grew up in Dannyburg and some people will be like, oh, small town. Doesn't matter. Like the world has changed. The internet's changed that, whether you're from a Māori or Pacifica background, etc. You know, there are things that hold us back, but it's our responsibility to figure out, okay, how do I ensure that they don't hold me back forever? Yeah. Okay, I've believed that could be the issue or what's happening to me. Now I'm going to figure out what I can do to go back the other way. And wherever you find yourself lost, you'll always find someone who got lost and then got themselves back out. And that's your reference point. And reach out to them and ask for their help. Don't speak to 8 more people that are still lost, that believe the same thing as you, that, I can't do this because I'm from Gisborne or whatever. No, like ask the people who have gone, no, that's not for me. I don't want to believe that. I need to reprogram and go and seek some advice from them.
Become who you are capable of becoming.
That's it.
Where can people find you, brother?
Keep the change. So have a look on Instagram. I don't really go on TikTok too much anymore. I got sick of the negative comments and stuff, but I know that's the platform. So it's a bit lazy for me not being on there. LinkedIn, if you're on there, keepthechange.co.nz. You can sign up to the weekly money mail that goes out. The whole point is that every Friday you're getting a reminder to put your mind back on your money, and we continue to normalize it. And it's okay to talk about tax and the economy and finances and learn about these things so that we can be better educated and then keep passing that knowledge on.
Nah, brother, appreciate you, man.
Easy.
I know that I learned a lot today. I know many others would have learned a lot as well. So thank you. That concludes another episode of The Martin Show. If you've made it this far, please subscribe to the YouTube, the Spotify, give the socials, Instagram, TikTok, a follow _ The Martin Show. And we'll be back next week. Thank you very much.